unread copy to the printer.
Oh my God.
Okay, everybody, smile.
The new printing, how many
We're
copies?
live.
Doing 1,000.
They're handing
No
them.
stands.
Talking about doing
Yeah,
more
yeah,
and
just
better
a
quality. I don't know.
Okay,
So
so
you
we're
guys,
gonna get
when we-
started here. I have a phone
So I'm gonna
that was
hand
found in the other room.
I'm gonna
If
hand the
anybody
mic.
lost their phone, I have it.
What's the title of the panel?
Of the film.
What, are we supposed to be doing something?
I'm gonna be interviewing you.
Okay,
That's okay.
please take
Yeah,
a
that's-
seat so
and
we
it'll be
can get
after
the
the film.
programming going.
So I won't be redundant and talk about a lot of the stuff.
We'd like to have these chairs up front filled,
About the
so please
injunction,
grab a chair.
bring food to Wounded Knee after they tried to cut off food.
Mm-hmm.
And,
So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm going to introduce myself.
you want me to talk about that?
So we'll
Who
we'll
are
have
you?
to talk
What
about
are you
that.
doing here?
So what I'll do is I'll go to you first, you second, and then you third, and then you talk about the legal stuff. And then I'm just going to be a handheld.
My name is Marcella
lavalier,
Gilbert.
So I can talk to him and hand you the mic,
I am
answer, and then you can look towards the audience or
lifelong member
wherever
of the
you wanna look.
American Indian Movement,
And then if I
a student
just
of We
put
Will
my hand
Remember
out like
Survival
this,
Group,
just finish up your
water
because we only
protector,
got like 45 minutes.
wife,
Finish
mother,
up your thought.
grandmother.
If I go like this with my hand to get the mic back,
Um,
and just finish your thought
I'm
up
also
and then
part
I'll-
of the Warrior Women
so I'm gonna try
Project,
and go
and the Warrior Women Project organized this
like a
event today.
shoestring.
That's wise.
We wanted to take time to recognize the matriarchs of Wounded Knee, and I know there's several who are here today, Wounded Knee veterans from 1973. So we wanted to take this time to recognize them and share some of the work that Elizabeth Castle has been doing for going on 25 years now.
Yeah, I was thinking.
She came to my mother's home on Cheyenne River that long ago and asked, wanted to interview her because she was working on a paper. And as she was doing her research, she noticed all this stuff coming up about Wounded Knee and Madonna Thunderhawk, and she had no idea. So she spent the last 25 years researching and doing amazing interviews. And this isn't just a small example of some of her work, some of the interviews that she's done, and she continues to do that. So like I said, those of you who want to share your story or your family's story about Wounded Knee, we would like to have, give you the opportunity to be interviewed so that your story can become part of the Warrior Women Project, the Oral History Archive. And I do want to be clear that you have access to your story. We're not taking it, we're not saying, well, this is mine now, because it's not. But you have access to your story. We just want to be able to archive it, because if you guys know, let us know, is there somewhere in this country where this history of warrior women in the American Indian movement, the Red Power movement, where is that history? And where is it being stored? And who's sharing it? And who's telling it? So this is part of what Warrior Women Project wants to do, is provide the opportunity for you to tell your history. And that through the Warrior Women Project, we can share it so that people learn our history from us. So I wanted to express that and just let you know who, it's the Warrior Women Project this is our event here that we want to do as part of the celebration of Wounded Knee 1973 50th anniversary. This is our contribution to what's happening this weekend. So I wanted to make sure I shared that information with you. So what we're going to do right now is watch an intro to the Warrior Women Project. It's a 2-minute video. So we're going to be, oh, and I want to also explain just a little bit here. This setup here, the Najo Society on Cheyenne River, where I'm at, myself and one of our team here, we co-founded this group focusing on violence against women, and we got a grant from Working Films, and this is part of what we got to keep this equipment, because we were showing the Warrior Women film, and we were showing films about MMIW, MMIR, things like that over the last year. So this equipment comes from the Najo Society on Cheyenne River. And so we're happy that we could contribute to today as well. So we got a 2-minute video. Lights, please. Where are the lights?
The Warrior Women Project is based on interviews with all of the women who I could get to who were Native activists, Indigenous activists in the Red Power movement. And it spans the fishing rights at Alcatraz, all over, whenever it was possible, interviewing anybody who was part of this solidarity-focused, transformative period. Right now, we have just more and more just blossoming of the interviews that were done, a lot of them with women whose stories, their family still needs to know.
I think the Warrior Women Project, by focusing on women, has not only opened the eyes of the world to our reality and our power, but also has forged a path for others, especially young people.
To participate in your own recording of your own history. We can't rely on the army. And then it was the Jesuits that came in and they did worse, but they recorded everything. But now we got to stop that thinking, and we have to do it ourselves and be active. We're not subjects of somebody's project or something, or somebody's degree. This is ongoing. This is living history, and we have to be a part of it. That's what I learned from Warrior Women.
Okay, so now I want to take some time to introduce the Warrior Women Project team. So will the team come up, please? You know who you are. You're wearing a shirt just like me. So we have Raya from Cheyenne River. She's the great-granddaughter of Marcella LeBeau. And I told you, she's my part, her and I are part of Najo. We're the ones who got this equipment. She's currently helping with the efforts to return Wounded Knee 1890 items from Glasgow Museum in Scotland. She joined the Warrior Women Project in 2021 and focused on the social media for today's event. Raya LeBeau. Chris has worked with Madonna since 2008 on ICWA and water issues in the Dakotas. In 2016, he spent time at Ocheti Shakoi camp with Madonna and Phyllis Young documenting direct actions and related treaty meetings. He has worked for Warrior Women since 2021, and he designed the banners and edited the videos for this exhibit. Where is he? Earth is an enrolled member of Yamasee Indian Tribe of Seminoles, serving as their cultural and government liaison. She's also a software engineer, DJ, and Indigenous Peoples Movement Coalition founding member. She was one of the main organizers for the Indigenous Peoples March in DC in 2019. Earth joined Warrior Women Project last year and worked with the press and through social media to get the word out about today's event. Morwenna Maz is from Wales. Her parents and extended family are lifelong activists in struggles for Welsh self-determination and Welsh language resurgence. Moz has worked for the Warrior Women Project since 2020, doing historical research and processing the oral history archive. She helped research and write the text that appears in this exhibit. Wyatt is from Crow Creek, South Dakota. For the past 12 years, he has worked with tribes, tribal organizations on research projects in the field of public health. Wyatt got involved with the Warrior Women Project while he was at school at the University of South Dakota in Vermilion. He has helped coordinate all of the work that went into making today happen. Thank you, Wyatt. So I wanted to take the time to introduce our team because these are the people who will be taking interviews. So those of you who want to offer your interview, and it doesn't have to be today, you guys are going to be here through Monday, right? So they'll be around if you want to share an interview or some history with them to be archived. So we will be moving into, thank you guys. We'll be moving into the roundtable discussion. We invited some key players from American Indian Movement and Wounded Knee 1973. We have Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. His people are from Minnesota. Anishinaabe? Is it Anishinaabe?
Ho-chunk.
Oh, Ho-chunk,
Sacred
sorry.
voice.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
He's Ho-chunk, sorry. But he's going to facilitate this roundtable. This is not necessarily an opportunity to ask questions. We just want to hear the voices of the women sitting at the table. So following the roundtable discussion, Elizabeth will introduce the exhibit. So all yours, Robert.
Pinagigi, thank you. Hey, Cudahy, to all my friends and relatives in four directions, I'm Robert Pilot, and I'm really honored to be here at this live streaming interactive Warrior Women Project, the Wounded Knee's 50th anniversary. And I want to get going really quick here, and I want Lavetta Yago to introduce yourselves, and I want to talk to you about one of the things. You were 19 years old. 18 years old. How did you feel, and when did this become real to you?
My name is Lavetta Yago. I'm from the Kiowa tribe in Oklahoma. And I was 18 when I first went in for the takeover. And when I left, I turned 19. I had a birthday inside. Nobody made a cake for me. But anyway, what I experienced there, being young and naive, I didn't know anything about what was actually going on until years later when I started reflecting back. And the experiences that I've seen, that I've seen and that I personally went through was scary. Because being young and naive and not know anything, you know, I didn't, you know, it was scary. I thought I was that real tough country girl, but deep inside, you know, it was just a facade. But after I left, went home, throughout the years, it was a great experience and a teaching for me because I didn't know my own tribal ways. Our people, I wasn't raised tribal, our ceremonies. We had ceremonies and stuff like that, but I wasn't raised that way. But I went home and I went around the elders that we had, and I sat down with them and I started asking questions. And I told them where I came from, where I've been. And they told me that, and the family that I came from, They said, you have that warrior spirit
Oh.
within you. Your family comes from warriors. And I didn't know that, until I started researching. And when I researched, and we researched until after our dad passed away, because he used to always tell us, keep your name good. And that's why, there's a reason why he said that.
Wow, Peeny Gigi, thank you so much. Madonna, you were a young warrior too, but you were a veteran of Alcatraz. What was different about this than all the other, my understanding is that you were in a caravan and all of a sudden Wounded Knee happened, and it was a large caravan, as was spoken. What was the difference? What made this different?
Well, I don't think it was that much different because it was always a land struggle. I think to the generations, that's what it's always been with our people, because that's who we are, we're the land. So, but there were so many events and things going on in the Red Power movement in those days, that it didn't seem like it was, it seemed like it was a continuation, because so many things happened before Wounded Knee, and then so many things happened after. But what happened at Wounded Knee, again, became an international, happening. And that's when we realized then that we weren't alone. I think that had a lot to do with it, that we realized even though the media was limited, because it was a male-dominated, non-native press on all levels, so, just the fact that it went international, was really important, because, again, we thought, yes, the land, we have every right to make a stand. We make that decision. That's what I learned. And I wasn't that young. I was 33 years old. I was one of the old guys.
Peeny Gigi, we have Joanne Brown, who's the writer of Voices from Wounded Knee. Your call to action was a little different. Can you explain that to our audience here? How you came about coming to Wounded Knee and what you ended up finding for yourself?
Sure. I was 26 or 25, I think, and I was working on a radio show that fed college radio stations, and I was mostly working on the Vietnam War and Asian stuff, and then Wounded Knee happened, and I was trying to get information about it so I could cover it, and after a short time it became harder and harder. So my colleague and I, Barbara Lou Schaefer, decided, well, let's just go out there. So we got in my little red Volkswagen and we drove out to Pine Ridge, and we went into the BIA and we showed our press credentials and they gave us press passes, and then we went into Wounded Knee, and a few days after we were there, the government ordered all the press to leave. So ABC, CBS, NBC, they all picked up they had big vans and they would cook steaks and drink wine in them, and they all picked up and left. And so Lou and I said, well, if they're leaving, we have to stay because we don't know what's going to happen. If there's going to be violence, we have to be here to witness it. So we ended up staying till the end of the occupation, and then we stayed a little bit longer for the negotiations between some of the chiefs and the government. And what did I get out of it? Well, it was an amazing experience. I had already participated in one or two Indian protests around the Onondaga Reservation, which was near where I went to school, and they were trying to save a little slip of land on their 6 square miles of reservation. And so we all went to talked to the governor who was taking it, and I just remember that very clearly because everybody was, I mean, the Indian people, especially the chiefs, were dressed, in full regalia, and out came Governor Rockefeller, I think, and he was just a little small guy in a gray suit, and he looked really so less powerful than the Indian people who were there. And so that was my other experience first that got me really interested in Wounded Knee. And I learned a lot about community, and I learned a lot about standing up for something you believe. And it was a really remarkable group of people. And I have to say, I also agree, it was a lot, the leaders were men, but a lot of the people behind the whole event were women. And some of those are in the book that we wrote. Oh, you asked about the book. So then we had all these tapes of interviews and meetings and everything. And Akwesasne Notes, if you know, they used to be up in the Mohawk Reservation. They asked us to come and do a book. Or so we went up there and lived on in a little wood farmhouse for about 12 months and put this book together.
Oh, thank you so much. Hey, we also have Fran Olson, who's was with the Wounded Knee Legal Defense and Offense Committee, and so you came about this a little later after the struggle began. Can you tell us a little bit about what your participation is? And I know Madonna talked about you earlier, and it was so happy to see you and your posse show up here for this celebration of our matriarchs of Wounded Knee. So tell a little bit about where you fit into this picture.
The first time I've ever thought about the possibility of having a posse, I'm impressed. After about the first week, the government, the USA government, had announced that they were going to break down the barricades of Wounded Knee and arrest everybody. And Ramon Robidoux, who was the only Native American lawyer in South Dakota at that time, called the National Lawyers Guild offices around the country to see if they could get some help, because he realized if they arrested a huge number of people, just the simple processing would be very time-consuming. Now, I was a very young lawyer at that time, but I knew I could process people. I could do what I could do. And so a fellow radical lawyer and I drove up from Denver, and we came with a commitment to stay for a week. We were blocked at the government blockade for a long time, but finally we made contact with Ramon Robidoux and we got through. And so, of course, the government, you can never trust the government, even if they say they're going to arrest you, they don't necessarily. And so the government backed down. During this time, they kept trying to send people or asking for people. The people who were supposed to be acting and helping, doing something, serving the government, the U.S. government at Wounded Knee, kept getting indicted because Watergate was busy going on about this time also. And so the whole country was realizing the government was crooks, but they still stood up and acted like they were supporting law and order at Wounded Knee. After a week, my colleague had to go back, and the people of Wounded Knee, who I knew best, were saying, "You're not going to leave, are you?" I said, "No, of course not." And so I stayed the rest of the 71 days. And was very pleased to do so. I divided my time somewhat between Rapid City and Wounded Knee, because we had a lot of lawyers began to offer to volunteer to help. And it's very hard to know how to actually make good use of somebody who can come in for only a week or only 2 weeks. And so there were a core of us that were it was important to sort of make plans and organize litigation and get things going and keep things going, and being able to actually put lawyers to useful work. So that's a lot of how I got involved in what I was doing. One of the things that impressed me the most throughout the entire period, but it first struck me, was that the local leaders of the movement were largely women, and the national leaders of AIM were largely men. When the government came into Wounded Knee to negotiate, or actually to try to tell us the way things had to be, and that we better take down our arms, and if they ever expect anything to come out of this, you better close up. When they came into town, they kept trying to limit the participants to the AIM members, and the AIM members, to their deep credit, refused to allow the government to separate out the women, to keep them, the local people, in the background. Because the movement had all begun as a local movement, and the women leaders were very important. And AIM immediately knew that, respected it, and forced that recognition upon the government. They subsequently forgot it, but they remember little bits of it. So that's what's impressed me. I'd like to mention one thing about one of the early successes we had as lawyers was when the government tried to stop food from coming into Wounded Knee. They had these roadblocks, and they tried to stop food coming in. They claimed, well, you never know, there may be guns in that food. Somebody talked about some sort of Pops cereal. That must be guns or weapons. And we want them to run out of guns and weapons, so we won't let food in because we can't be sure. So we brought a lawsuit. A couple of us who interviewed a bunch of the people figured out that, yes, that was happening. There were people in the churches in Rapid City gathering large quantities of food and wanting to send food in. So we brought a lawsuit because there's no legal basis upon which you can block food coming into a place. And that was the first time a federal judge was actually willing to say, yeah, blocking food from human beings, including, we emphasized the women and children, but that was really a bad thing to do. So we got an injunction saying, you can't block food. You've got to, and we worked it all out. They had permission to open up our trunks and look through all the food, check for any pots or anything else, look at us and fill out FBI reports on us, and so forth. And then at that time, the government, I shouldn't say this because I don't know it, but it happened that Dickie Wilson and his crew, they called themselves goons, didn't they? Dickie Wilson and his goons set up another roadblock. And apparently, that was the roadblock that was the real thing that made it difficult to get food and legal services into Wounded Knee. Now, some people could climb over the fields. Some of the medical people who came to volunteer did climb over the fields. Sometimes they would be let in, but sometimes they wouldn't. So under this pretense, what they had is we were subjected to the Dickie Wilson goon group, who basically at gunpoint took away the food. And as we were leaving, according to Mark Lane, who I'm sure is telling the truth, they shot at us, shot at the car. So I too have been under fire. In any event, and it's really interesting because we viewed the injunction as a success. And the fact that they took away food did have an effect upon people. We were able to get that publicized. It was able to be seen by the nation that it wasn't simply a Indians versus Indians and gosh, the government doesn't play a role. They saw that the effort to block and destroy the actions at Wounded Knee were being facilitated with the help of friendly Indians, which has been a long strategy of any colonial power.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing, which is interesting, is in that sense it was a success, but like so many legal successes, the clients, the people of Wounded Knee, didn't get anything directly out of it. No food came in directly because of that.
Wow.
And yet it was a legal success, and I wouldn't want to underrate that.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Madonna, I kind of know you. Last time I was here at Wounded Knee, you were on a horse, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this lady's 80 years old and she's on a horse. I want to ask you, what was the mood like there? We know you have a good sense of humor, but we know from people that knew you back in the day that you were also a taskmaster. Where was the fine line, and did you have time to use your great sense of humor?
Well, I didn't have to really worry about, using a sense of humor, because we were all Indians, and that's what Indians do, And that's how you get through things, and things that the rougher it gets, the funnier people are, and we all know that, that's how it works. But yeah, what happened with Wounded Knee individually, I don't know, but just from what we were doing, and it was more like, well, we're here, and we'll just make the best of it. So nobody was complaining, nobody was scared, nobody was panicking. And in fact, the younger ones that I know of would go in and out. They'd sneak out, go to Rapid, and hang out for a while, and come back with the latest news, let us know and stuff. And they'd always have a backpack, and some of them would have instant coffee. Oh. Andrea Rabadou is right here. She was one of the medics, okay? And one time she came in and she said, "Madonna, look what I found." I said, "What?" She said, she went like this. Here there was 2 packs of instant coffee. Boy, we looked at each other and got real quiet. There was nobody in there but her and I, and a couple of people that were in the, patients that were in there, for other things, And so we got real quiet like that, and we said, "Come on." So we went over and we really put the water on to heat up the water, pretending like we were cleaning up or doing something, We got the hot water and we went into my room, which was a storeroom eventually, because we were in the clinic was in the building where the trading post owners lived. So it was kind of fancy, and it had this big utility room. So it was big enough to have a, bed in there and stuff. So we went in there real quiet and shut the door, and we sat down and we drank that instant coffee. And looking around like, someone was going to come and take it away. It was precious, So those are the kind of things that I remember. I don't remember everybody being scared. Hey, we knew the firefights were going to happen. We got used to that, And so that's what we did. As soon as the flares went up, the feds lit up the ground every night. Flares would hit at different intervals so that the whole area was lit up. So as soon as the flares started going out, we got ready and crawled out to the bunkers because we knew the firefight was going to start. So it kind of became routine. Survival instinct, Surrounded by ancestors.
Oh, wow. I just have one quick question too, I noticed there were ribbon shirts worn by the women, but no ribbon dresses. Why was that back then?
That was a different era, A different time, How are you going to run in a fancy ribbon skirt?
Yeah.
How are you going to charge a barricade, with the ribbon skirt, So we did the ribbon shirts.
Good. Peeny Gigi, thank you. Now, you had a situation where you had to go to the bathroom and something happened and you felt really, we talked earlier about this intense fear for a moment. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I was saying that I was young and naive, and I wasn't going to give him any glory, who was my ex-husband at the time. Who was my husband, he's my ex now. I thought I was safe under his, being with him. And but he was a Vietnam vet. So I kind of had, a little trust, because I didn't really trust people anyway. And I woke up that morning to gunshots. And we were in a firefight. And when we was, how Mother Nature wakes you up. When we wake up, how Mother Nature's calling you. So I said, I poked him and I told him, I said, I need to go. I need to go. And he said, okay. But some smart person thought he had a great idea. He was going to build us a outhouse, instead of going down to the creek. I didn't mind going down the creek, but it was a little bit unsafe for us. So I told my ex, I said, let's, I got to go. So he had, that smart person, he had built a 6-foot hole in the ground. He never did finish what he started. So it was just a hole. So my ex, he told me, he says, come on, I know you can go. And he said, okay, I'll watch your back. And so he told me, he said, jump in that hole. Before, he was telling me what to do before I went out. And so when I opened the door, they shot at us. God. And then I didn't really get scared, and I just said, darn it, I gotta go. And I said, so he said, go ahead, run, because he was kind of like timing the shots, because where they were going to different areas. And so it kind of got cleared a little bit. So I went and I jumped in that hole, and I did my thing. And I said, thank you, Mother Nature. And I said, I appreciate this. And I said, I got to make sure I get back safe. But he told me, he said, when you get through, he says, let me know when you're through. So I did. And just a few inches from that hole. Of course, I wasn't only standing in my piss, I was standing in my feces. And I wasn't ashamed because I did that. It's just natural, And so I let him know that I was ready to come out. But he was kind of like still timing the shots because they were still shooting towards us. And I just barely, they'd seen my head, the top of my head, they had my hair. And they were shooting at us. And so I guess they must have thought I was a sniper. And so I stuck my head on, they see my head, and I got back down, and just before I was getting ready to get back down, I felt the wind of the bullets. Not knowing, but not knows what I feel. Not knowing, we were close to death. A lot of us felt that. But that was my first experience, not knowing what being in war, a militarized zone war. Because where my bunker was, that's the same bunker where Frank Clearwater got murdered. Our bunker was in the demilitarized zone, right there. And I didn't realize that until after I got her book. And I see that because she's got her bunker in there.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that. But thank you for that. And but that was an experience that stuck with me throughout these years. It's been 50 years. I remember it to this day because that's something I'll never forget. I'll take it to my grave. But I never told anyone this story, my experience. Never. Because after I had left Wounded Knee, after we left and we went our own ways, I didn't know I had PTSD. Because I thought I had a good mind. I thought I had a strong mind. That's why, But if you're involved in something that's really violent, if you don't have a strong mind, it will affect you. I'm telling you, because this is what happened to me, but experience is experience. Oh.
Wow, amazing story. Yeah, that's an amazing story. I want to give everyone a chance to answer this question. I want to start with Joanne first. And I know in my own life, and I think everybody here has that time in their life where they'll always remember. And does it seem that long ago, and is this something that is a part of your memory today?
Well, I wasn't sure of it, and I haven't been back here in 50 years, but I've done other activist things all my life, mostly in Chicago. But when this came up, that this was happening, and that our book was being reprinted, I got very excited, and I've been remembering many parts of the experience and many people ever since, and I know it had a big effect on me.
I want the same question to you.
As a single incident is different from sort of the broad. In terms of the broad, what stays with me strongest is the people I met, especially the people in Wounded Knee. As a single incident that played an important role in basically convincing me to return to law. I clerked for a federal judge for a year, and then I started working for a nonviolent organization. And I wasn't sure you could be a lawyer and a decent human being at the same time. I had seen just enough lawyers to be very skeptical about that. And well, sometime fairly late in the whole operation, there were teams of medical teams coming in to relieve the other medical teams, and the government, as part of its strategy of trying to wear people down, it was giving the medical teams a hard time coming in. And I remember very strongly, there was the medical team that really had to get in because the other one really had to leave. They were getting really burned out. Doctors aren't that much stronger than lawyers, and we're pretty weak. In any event, but they really had to change. And so they were seeking advice. And I remember the medical team telling me that they really trusted me and that they didn't trust most lawyers. And I realized that it's not really that law makes people into, I want to say shits, but that's probably be blipped out, into thoughtless people, but that a lot of thoughtless people become lawyers, and that law might encourage thoughtlessness. And then that's what convinced me that one could be a lawyer and a decent human being, and that's what I've tried to be ever since.
Wow, yeah, it's just amazing. Madonna, you've been through a lot of fights. You were at Standing Rock, seen you at Line 3 in Minnesota. Your work has just been unbelievable all these years. What sticks with your mind specifically about Wounded Knee?
I think it was all of our people that came from all over the country, and the unity. I mean, every one of our nations was represented, and that's again, I felt that we're not alone. It's just locally, nationally, and internationally. Because after Wounded Knee, that's what the elders told us. We've got the world's attention. We need to go further. So that it was just after Wounded Knee, it was just like, well, the next phase got laid out to us. And we had some strong, amazing elders that had our back. So as the years went by, all the way up to Standing Rock, that's what. When I became an elder, I saw that was a responsibility to show up, and you don't have to say anything. You don't have to be on the mic. You just show up so those young people know you have their back. Because our ancestors showed us that. And that's our strength, is our ancestral memories.
There was a lull, we talked a couple of years ago about that. It seemed like there was a lull of young people showing up to represent, and then Standing Rock happened, and people were looking up to warrior women like yourself, and you've expressed that you're really happy to see young people now show up to these events now, and with this great history from all you, these young ones can lean on it. But can you explain a little bit about that? There was a little lull, people, where were everyone? And then people showed up. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah, well, kind of.
Oh,
I'm really forgetful. Yeah. Anyway, but no, I just think, the overall picture, for me has been, there was a lull, of those years, but what the American Indian movement taught me was everybody is in the movement. Everybody is, if you're taking care of your family, if you're taking care of your children, if you're in school, if you're making it every day, that's a warrior. So it doesn't always have to be an action, It doesn't always have to be, glory, all that kind of stuff. We were on the brink of going, circling the drain, as a people. And what Wounded Knee did, Alcatraz, and many of the other events, of the day was just a spark. And from that we had flames,
Oh.
And so now we have native media. Look at what you're doing. I mean, to me, that's amazing because we didn't have that. We had to fight for that. We had to fight for every little thing, So to me, everything's is a step forward, whatever we do.
Wow, that's amazing, and we're gonna end this, and I am just feel so blessed to be among these warrior women and you warriors out here. I really, really appreciate this conversation and these stories, and your experience. So I just want to say, Peeny Gigi, thank you so much to the Warrior Women Project, and thank you to all the Aimster gangsters. Ho, yeah. Thank you very much. I don't know. Thank you. Here she comes. All right, one more big hand here for the warrior women here, please, and Marcy. Peeny. Ho chunk. Peeny Gigi.
Thank you, Robert. So that was amazing. Thank you, ladies. History, man. This is our history. This is awesome. The stories that we don't hear, the stories that aren't written in the book. I know living history is important. And so another reason for us to value our elderly and our veterans, because they hold that valuable history that helps us move forward as younger people. So now, what we're going to do is, I just wanted to remind everybody about interviews. You met our team who's willing to take interviews. We really hope to expand what we have. We have some stuff with Black Hills Alliance, some stuff with Weakeldock. I'm hoping those of you from Weakeldock will give us some interviews. Because I was just a little kid when you guys were doing your thing. So I didn't really get to know anybody. I just knew you were all in that building over there and protecting us, protecting our families who are at Wounded Knee. Or anybody, any Indian that was in jail. That's what I thought anyway. But yeah, we would like to expand. Anybody here from the survival school, we would like to get some interviews from you as well. Any survival school. Women of all red nations. In this way, we want to, show our solidarity and action with all of you, the American Indian Movement and Wounded Knee veterans and our families. So right now, I would like to introduce Mark Tilson, Jr.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to give him a few minutes to share
Thank you so much.
some really good info with us right now.
Thank you so much. It's my privilege. Thanks for the shout out. Hello? Turn my mic off.
Good afternoon. Wakopa luta machapalo khahe sente awati o yukhpe cha na Oglala Lakota mie. My name is Mark Kenneth Tilson. I'm Oglala Lakota. I'm from right here in Porcupine, South Dakota. I'm almost as old as Keeley Radio, so I'm about to be 40. I was asked to come and speak today. We have 2 books available for everyone in the room, and we'd like you all to grab 1 copy each. And if you could leave your name with us and just let us know how to get a hold of you and your name, that'll be a fair trade for 2 free books. And one of the books is It Ain't Over Till We're Smoking Cigars on the Drill Pad, which is a collection of my poems I wrote about Standing Rock. And the second book that we have is, I feel is to be much, much, much more important and historical. It's Voices from Wounded Knee. I grew up with this book. I think we had a 3rd edition, and it was by the time I was a teenager, it was already falling apart. The cover was torn, had coffee stains all over it, and it felt like, at the time, 30 years ago felt like such a long piece of history. It felt ancient. Everything was black and white back then. We have the evidence. And Standing Rock happened. And I was out there off and on for 5.5 months. And I started working with my brother, reluctantly, and hopefully, and very happily though, as the librarian for Indian Collective. And before I became a full-time organizer, my colleague, Tom Swiftward, brought in his grandma's 1st edition copy. And I sat down and I read it cover to cover, and I felt kind of changed as a person. I felt like I was connected to my elders because we lived such a similar experience. Some things were so incredibly different. There's photographs and tapes and transcripts that needed to be smuggled out on horseback during the occupation of Wounded Knee. And this book is made from some of those documents and photographs. And at Standing Rock, informing the entire planet about what we're doing was as easy as a push of a button. We went live on Facebook, Instagram, live tweeting on Twitter. And so there's things that were so incredibly different. And the similarities was like kind of the pompous bravado of the press conferences. And you could see it right in the book. And I was like, I bet I know what that was really like sitting there. And there's some moments of just absolute sublime beauty and presence. You can smell, when you read the book, you can smell gunpowder. You can smell the tobacco. You can smell the coffee. You can smell the soap from the hand washing of clothes. And there's part of camp life that's just universal. And there's part of our struggle that's universal. And one of the things that was so beautiful and profound to me is seeing the same faces and seeing the same showing up throughout history, throughout time. Maybe like reincarnations of real, genetics are just that strong, or there's something spiritual going on, and our struggle is intergenerational, truly. And being part of the reprinting of this book, we've raised money and just independently, mostly from the people of Wickledock who have generously taken on this project, has a contribution to this anniversary and to all of these events that are going on. We don't ask for any money at all for this, except for those of you who can really afford to. We're $3K short. We'll get there. I'm not worried. But I think if we tried to make money off of this, whatever spirit that was fostering this book to come back into a creation wouldn't be there. So this is truly a labor of love from the people who created the book, who generously let us bring this book back into the world. And to the people, Jose Barrera said, like, well, technically you probably should ask the Mohawk Nation for permission, but you could probably ask forgiveness if they got upset. And the originals burned down in a fire. That's just the truth of it. And this is going to be embarrassing for a good friend of mine, but Kevin Brown, can you please come down here? Kevin Brown has been working with my family for over 25 years. He's had an independent print shop in Minneapolis. Testing, there we go. Kevin has operated himself in the movement with the highest integrity of possible, of helping projects come into the world. He helped me do my first book, the second printing, the third printing, and it has not left him the most financially successful person I've ever met. And this was honestly the type of regard and awe and respect that Kevin and his team, one of our folks donated a uncirculated museum quality edition, and we took it apart piece by piece with a scalpel to remake this book. And the regard that this was held with was like the way that somebody would hold a sacred object. And for Kevin, for all the decades of work that you've done, and as an honoring for putting this back into bringing this, donating your time and putting so much labor into this, driving this out through a snowstorm to get here, I'm gonna honor you with this blanket, and yeah. And we'll be handing these out, and so make sure you walk away with one of my books and one of Voices from Wounded Knee. Thank you.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you. Okay, before the mad rush, we got this organized, okay? So I'm going to ask Wyatt to come up, and he'll give you some details.
All right, now for the good stuff, all the free swag, all the t-shirts, stickers, we got some good stuff. So what we're gonna do is we'd really like to get some feedback on the exhibit, on your experience today. If you have any relatives that were in this exhibit, if you have any stories about them or Wounded Knee that you would like to share, your favorite experience or moment of the event, what did you take away from the exhibit, and what did you learn? Anything missing, anything that we could improve on. This isn't, a comprehensive history of Wounded Knee. I don't know if we'll ever be able to get there, and so knowing that we want to continue to build on what's been presented here today. And then we want this to be a traveling exhibit, and so and shown in different places. So if you have any suggestions on where it could be shown and put up at in different places and spaces. So there is a feedback form here. Raya has her arms up over here. As you move through the exhibit, go through there, engage with it. There are tablets where you'll see examples of the interview clips. Engage with that, meet with people, talk with people. Some of those, obviously, that have been here, engage with them, move through, and then at the end, pick up your evaluation form, and then if you turn it into the table, we'll give you a free gift bag that has one of the t-shirts that all of the team is wearing here. And then, let's see here, there's stickers, and I can't, buttons. I can't remember all the different things that are in there, but lots of really amazing stuff. So go. Oh, and also pick up then your copy of the Voices for Wounded Knee and the other book that was mentioned as well. So that's kind of the plan. But also, before I wrap up here, I also wanted to acknowledge and just say a few words about, again, in my introduction that Marcy gave, it was mentioned that I got my start with the Warrior Women Project during undergrad. And I can remember when Madonna came to a class of ours and I was first introduced to her. And, she often talked about, like, we need to get the youth involved and more engaged in this history. We need to teach them, we need to talk to them about what happened, because we can't rely on, the Western version of what this history is. We need to share our own stories, our own experiences, and I still hold that and carry that with me. I also remember there was a time when Marcy did an interview, part of oral history training that we did, and I remember one of the quotes that still replays in my head is she talks about how we have to figure out what kind of elders we're going to be, so that the youth and generations that are coming up, when they have answers or when they have questions, we'll have answers for them. And so both of these women, I really look up to and have encouraged me to be involved in these things. And I think that's part of this effort to get more people involved and engaged, sharing your voices and stories. I also want to recognize, Beth and the work that she's done. She was my professor and helped to really encourage me and get me involved in this, and, was just like, it's going to be a long road, but I'm in it, and if you'd come along with me, I've stuck with her through all of this, and, there's a lot of other students that have come along the way that haven't been able to be here with us, but again, just wanting to give a huge shout out to Beth, Madonna, and Marcy for getting all of this work going, because without them, none of this story or exhibit would be here, and just wanting to really lift them up and say, Wopida.
Thanks, Wyatt. Okay, so at this time, we're going to invite you to the exhibit. Also, we have a swag table over there for those of you who want to purchase some of our lotions and soaps and headbands and things like that. And all those proceeds go to the efforts that we, the Oral History Project, gas for the grandmothers. I mean, it's usually gas money. Hey, no, I'm just kidding. But any donations, if you want to make a donation and buy some products, we'd really appreciate that. So you're welcome to see the exhibit, do your feedback form, grab your books, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you for coming. I also want to recognize the author of Voices one more time. The author, Voices of Wounded Knee. So thankful she's here. And Weekledoc, before you guys take off, Weekledoc, can I visit with you, please? I'll meet you over there in that corner. Before everybody takes off, Lavetta would like to share some gifts.
I want to say, aho, to the people that have invited me and let me be, to take a stand with you people, for your people. And for the Woman Warrior Project, Beth Castle, would you please come forward?
I'm a journalist with the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Okay. Come here, Beth. Your mask. Okay. Pick that later. Hey.